Robb Zarges, who's the director of the CASA Project. And Robb, in my previous life and career, I practiced law for about a dozen years, worked in the courts, did some work in the Juvenile Court. So I'm familiar with the really important work that the CASA Project does. But maybe for our viewers who are not familiar with the CASA Project, maybe you could talk about the mission and the work that it does in the community every day.
Yeah, sure. So every year in Massachusetts, about 8,700 kids are removed from their homes because of abuse and neglect, and DCF takes custody of them and puts them in the foster care system. In Worcester County, that's about 1,700 kids a year. And the CASA Project, we are court-appointed special advocates, and what we do is we recruit and screen and train volunteers from the community to be advocates for kids who have been removed from their home while they navigate the juvenile court system. They're appointed by a judge. We do the training, and then they're appointed by a judge to be assigned to a child or a sibling group to make sure that the best interest of that child is being taken care of. We really act like the eyes and ears of the judge. We do what a judge would do if he or she could come off the bench and do the investigation that they would want to do. They collect all the data by meeting with the child, meeting with the foster parents, meeting with the birth parents, meeting with educators, therapists, anybody that has anything to do with those children's lives. And then they put together reports that they give to the judge when the hearings happen, so that the judge has an independent perspective on the best interest of the child. And we really act as the voice of the child, because the interesting thing about juvenile court, the only person that's not in the courtroom is the child.
Right, right. And you know, it's really important in the sense of, you talk about 1,700 young kids, young people who are in this predicament, in this situation, and the volume in the juvenile courts. The judges are generally very busy, and it's really hard for them to kind of dig in. The prosecutor's got a role, defense counsel's got a role, but somebody who can take that extra time to do that due diligence without kind of an iron in the fire, and provide that information. And I've seen in dozens of cases where that information is really critical for a judge as she or he makes a decision about what they're going to do or how they're going to handle a case or what recommendations they're going to make.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important role, and it's just people like you and me, just regular people that are coming forward. We have about almost 400 volunteers that have been trained that are doing this work. We worked with about 900 kids last year, and our goal is to be able to serve every child, obviously, but we have to build some capacity to do that. But the role is really important, because in the courtroom you have different perspectives. You have the DCF attorney, you have the attorney for the parents, the attorney for the child are all there, but we kind of stand in the middle where we have collected all this data from all the people in the child's life, and we are standing for the best interest of the child. We don't have any other purpose being in the room but to make sure whatever's best for those children is going to happen, and that could be going home for reunification, or it could be being freed for adoption. But more, just as importantly, is we think we can move the needle in three ways for kids while they're in the foster care system. One, making sure that they have all the educational resources that they need to not fall behind while they're in foster care. So whether that means special education services or things along those lines. Second is around mental health, making sure that these kids have access to trauma therapy and any ongoing therapy that they need to make sure that they're being well cared for while they're in the foster care system. And the third thing is health, making sure that all of their health needs are being taken care of. And Worcester does a very good job with that, with the FACES clinic and things along those lines. But we make recommendations, we voice our concerns, and then we also are either in agreement or disagree with DCF's plan for the final disposition of that case.
Right, and the DCF attorneys, again, we read and hear in the news high caseloads, staff ratios in terms of the number of cases that they're handling being high. So it's difficult for them to really put the time in. So again, this reinforces why this is important. And the level of training for someone to go out and do that investigation or recommendation and report, I assume with your volunteers, there's some pretty training is very important.
Yeah, so we ask a lot from our volunteers. We really do. I mean, I'm always surprised that we even have anyone show up to our volunteer trainings, much less the numbers that have been coming. But we require 30 hours on the front end of training. It covers everything from the understanding the juvenile court system to how to engage with kids, how to do interviewing, all those kinds of things. And then there's 12 hours a year of ongoing training for all of our volunteers. Plus we have all other kinds of seminars and workshops for them as well. But it's 10 to 12 hours a month our volunteers are giving to do the work that they need to do on a regular basis. And you know, the most critical thing for us is that we get eyes on a child every single month. We want to make sure we see that child, eyes on, face-to-face visit, which is at this time posing some struggles. So we're thinking about how we have to respond to what's happening in the world right now. But that's the most important thing. We don't want any child to ever get lost in the system.
Right. And so volunteers are extremely important, but as a nonprofit organization, you've got to raise money. You just recently had your Champions event where you're raising some money, and actually people gathered. You got it in at the right time, given what's happening.
We just got it in under the wire.
The coronavirus and people trying to stay away from crowds at the recommendation of our health professionals. But raising funds is an annual thing to fuel this important operation.
Yeah, it's I've been in nonprofit management for almost 30 years now, and it's pretty much my full-time job is figuring out how to raise more money so that we can get more mission out the door, right? I mean, the reality is every $1,200 we raise, we can serve another child. And so, that's not a lot of money. It's $100 a month, right? So, but we want to be able to serve another 500 kids. Right. We need to raise some significant amount of money, and so we did have a great event. We had an amazing committee, the Champions for Children. We honored Dr. Forkey. We honored one of our judges, Judge Capuano, and our Volunteer of the Year, Suzanne Remington, last Friday. It was a wonderful event at Mechanics Hall, and really pleased with the way it went off. We do have a golf tournament coming up, and that's in August, August 3rd. We're going to be doing that at Sterling National Country Club.
And a great chance to participate in that.
You played last year. You played in our event last year.
I didn't play well, but I was there.
Yeah, that was a tough day all the way around. But it's a fun event. It's a corporate event, so if you're corporate sponsors, we're always looking for them to buy a foursome or become a sponsor. But money for nonprofits equals mission, right? So more kids served is every dollar we raise, we have a chance to serve more children.
And so if people want to learn more, they can go, I assume, go online?
Mm-hmm. Sure, so you can go on our website is thecasaproject.org. We also have an Instagram and Facebook page. You can connect there as well. And you can always just call the office, 508-757-9877.
So casaproject.org, CASA.
Yep.
And really important organization doing a lot of work for our kids. And sooner they're able to get the appropriate services, recommendations, the more they have a chance for success, and that helps all of us.